So I'm going to talk about using the power of special education teachers to help regular schools to prepare for the inclusion reform. My name is Gilad Cohen Ynon, formerly head of research on organizational development at the Israeli Air Force, organizational consultant, and now a lecturer at the Department of Organizational Development and Consulting, the Israel Valley Academic College, and the Department of Sociology at Haifa University. My colleague is Moshe Sharabi. He is an associate professor at the Sociology and Anthropology Department and head of the MA Studies in Organizational Development and Consulting at the Israel Valley Academic College. First, I want to talk about the reform of inclusion in Israel. The reform meant to integrate special education into the regular education. This means transferring budget from special education to regular education by increasing the trend of the integration of special education children in regular schools. This means flooding regular schools with special education children. So how do they deal with it? They have many problems, like they don't have the required knowledge, the resources, the tools that they need to deal with those children. What do we do? Well, the purpose and the idea was to use the power of teachers, consultants, special education managers from special schools to help ordinary schools and to prepare them for the necessary change, to use the power of the community, sort of. There were two groups, the special education group and the special education autism that took place during the study. There were 40 participants and it took 2 years, 1 year for each group. The groups were comprised of managers, school consultants, teachers, etc. The learning process. Well, the learning process meant to map the DNA of the practice. What do I do? What do I believe? What mechanism do I use when I treat special child? One of the model we used was based on logical level. Bateson see identity is made of several levels, not just beliefs and values, but also capabilities of the person, the behavior of the person, the way he sees his environment, and even spirituality level. So we started to map their beliefs and values as special education professional. Some of them were very important, like what are my values? How do I see that my team? Team is very important at special education institutions. Like many professional languages for staff, but we have to use one language per child, or we have to synchronize many professionals all the time. We have to connect the thread for the child, and we have to support each other all the time. Professional values. The school is mine, is my home. I have to be self-explored all the time to see what worked well and what didn't work. I have to regulate the thought machine, find a quiet inner corner. The child is mine, no swaps. And educational values, like if it's not broken, we're not fixing it. It means the child. Thought creates reality. We have to believe in the child. We have to understand that rules change all the time. What worked before won't work tomorrow. We have to step back and allow the child's initiative, etc. All these are creating the way we look at the child and work at the school. Then we use a tool called MRI for schools. It's like the MRI used in medicine. It allows us to diagnose an organization in 3 sections and then connect them to one large image and look at what we found. The last stage was to use empathy, to ask the customers, to ask the parents, and some of the children that could connect with us, what do they really need from us? What are their deep needs? Then we poured all this information into the link canvas, so we could look at it and see what our speciality, what is our profession. This is how it looked like in Hebrew. Well, the last stage was action, to use this information, and the groups built instruction manuals and protocols to convey this knowledge to regular schools through personals and group training. Some of the products or value propositions were one team used a playback theater to help teachers cope with special needs. Other teams use exposures to expose regular education teams to on-the-spectrum teaching techniques. How do we do what we do? Or use gamification in class to deal with special needs children that reacts very well to gamification. Or how do we see the world from the autistic child perspective? It's not a regular child. We have to know how it looks at the world and how it acts upon the world. So how do we do it? What do we have to expect as regular teachers? Well, there are applications. 4 teams are now working with elementary school staff to apply the products. Similar process, a third process, took place with regional support centers. There are 5 centers that support special schools and now are starting to support regular schools. How do they do that? It's a modest but very promising start. Thank you all for listening.